Okay, the next part of the project will be attaching our metal rod that we made onto our airplane. And so we have to figure out where to place this onto the bottom of the airplane. I use a very unscientific method as eyeballing and seeing about where the airplane's level. So I've got a nail here, and I'm going to just move the airplane until it just stays where I want it to stay. So that's how the airplane's going to stay and how it's going to be on the post. And I want to have it pretty much balanced so that one side is not heavier than the other. So what I'll do now, I'll take my pen. Okay, I've got my pen, and I'll just come straight down, and I'm going to put a little mark. So right there is where I'm going to put my steel rod. So I'll show you how I do that. I don't have the bearing in yet, but I can get an idea, just centering this in here, what she'll look like. And I like that. I think that'll look good. Got this fairly level to the ground, so in a flight attitude, that's what it'll look like. Every airplane's a little bit different. Just have to play around and see what you like. What looks good to you. What looks good to me might not look good to you, so just whatever your personal preference is. Let's see. So let's go this way. And these don't have to be big, huge welds. There's not a lot of force on here, and just these small welds that I'm putting on like this seem to work fine. I've never had one fall off, and we've had some pretty big winds here lately. Well, that weld's terrible. No wonder I didn't have my glasses on. I wonder why I couldn't see what I was doing. Now that's better. Now I can see. Man, what a difference. When you can see your work, makes all the difference in the world. Okay, got him welded up. And next thing, we'll go ahead and put the bearings in. There's the vane assembly that we welded up. Put these 4 arms on. And this is the 1-inch steel tube with the threads on the end. We're going to put these bearings, 1 in each end. I've got them machined out to be just a several thousandths under, so that they press in and you don't have to worry about them falling out. We're using some kind of thread locker to keep them in there. So if you're really careful, you can just use a hammer and tap them in. This will go in pretty nice. What I like to do, once I put the first one in, and I always like to do the threaded one first. I'll put a rod up in. I'm going to look to see if that's centered. If it's not centered, it means this bearing's not in straight, and you'll have to adjust it. You can normally adjust it by using a lot of leverage and pulling it back and forth. Since that one seems to be seated properly, set the other one. You want to use some kind of cushion so that you don't damage the threads on the bottom. And we wouldn't want to have the bearings in before we welded, because you might damage the seal or the bearing. Okay, that seems to be in there nice. And now before we set our airplane in, we'll make sure that everything's lined up properly. Spins nice and free, so that's lined up properly. Alright, final assembly. We make sure that our airplane's cooled down, and we'll put the rod in the airplane, and that'll be complete. Now it's time for final assembly of the airplane into the Weathervane arms. I realize it's not a real good contrast because the steel is light and also the airplane's light against a concrete background. Just to show you, give you an idea of what it takes to put it in. It's a very simple procedure, and we're almost done. So we'll take our airplane, and we should have had this end nice and beveled. Just insert this into that, and everything's lined up. It'll just fit right down smooth. That's the airplane. Airplane Weathervane, all complete. Now I paint mine flat black. You can paint it whatever color you want, obviously. I just like the flat black because I think it stands out against the sky better. For example, here's a flat black airplane that I'm in the process of making another Weathervane for, and you can see in the background it stands out quite a bit better. Also, if you want to make any other kind of Weathervane, I make all kinds of different patterns. We got a backhoe here that I've made a Weathervane for, and so I put this up on the house here once I get her done. This has an epoxy coating on it, so it's a little shinier than the flat black. Hope you enjoyed the Weathervane construction. If you have any questions, my email is ss2metal@gmail.com. It's in the About Me section. And if you have any comments or questions, please list them, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.